So what are the huge benefits of moving to Germany? Germany is the second most popular destination for immigration in the whole world, just behind the USA, and of course the first in Europe. So there must be a reason as to why so many people want to move to Germany. Being a medical doctor myself from Uganda who has been living in Germany for the past 2 years, let me break down for you guys the benefits of moving to this country. Now, whether you are a student who is seeking to further their education in Germany, or you want to come directly and join the workforce like how I did, stick around until the end of the video to get a whole perspective. Some of the things might be news to you. The first advantage is the education. Now, one of the things that really positively shocked me when I moved to Germany was the fact that education is completely free. For me, that was like a real shocker. So whether you are somebody who is seeking to do a bachelor's degree, a master's, or a PhD, or probably just want to do vocational training here in Germany, despite having very high quality education right from kindergarten to PhD, it is free. Now, having this variety of education without the burden of having to pay school fees or having to pay tuition for it, I think is really golden. Now, the crazier thing about this is that you see, when you come to do, for example, the vocational training, the so-called Ausbildung in German, this is not only a form of training, but it also provides employment almost ahead of time. People who are doing vocational training are also working because it is more of a hands-on system. So for guys who are doing the vocational training or the Ausbildung, the crazy thing is that you actually are paid some money while you study. Now, when you talk about university education in Germany, 99% of all the university education in Germany is free, apart from private universities. So all the government institutions really have free education. Now, if you are doing university education, there are plenty of exchange programs that are available between German universities and other universities, for example, in countries like the USA. So doing a degree here, presents you with all these opportunities that you are able to travel to other countries like the USA through the different partnership programs that exist. Apart from the USA, there is something that is very famous here in Europe called the Erasmus program. As long as you are a student in one of the German universities and your university has signed up to the Erasmus program, you are free to travel through the whole of Europe just through your education exchange programs. An example for me is there is a friend who came all the way from Greece, actually, that I know personally, and they didn't have their medical training in Germany. Their education was in English while they're in Greece. They came through the Erasmus program to Germany, and currently he's working in Germany. So there are all these possible opportunities of exchange programs that exist as long as you're doing your education at a German university. The second advantage that comes with being in Germany is not just the education, but the employment that comes with it. As of 2025, Germany boasts of the lowest unemployment rates in the whole of Europe, by the way, with just up to 3.5% of the population being unemployed, which I think is a crazy figure. And by the way, this is not just a usual political statistic that stands there on paper and means something totally different in reality. Like, this is something you even feel on ground, that as long as you finished that education, there is always a possibility of getting employment. Now, the German government also has this whole department that is responsible for employing people or making sure that everybody within Germany has a job. It's so-called Bundesagentur für Arbeit, or the Federal Employment Agency. So this body literally makes sure that as long as you finish your education in German, you get employment. This is crazy. It doesn't matter, by the way, whether you are a German or you're not a German. As long as you're here and you finished your education, you are given a job search visa for a period of 18 months through which you are supposed to look for a job. And of course, if a job doesn't come through as quick as possible, you can basically go to the Bundesagentur für Arbeit and you tell them, guys, you know what, I've looked for a job and I can't find one. Because they have different organizations which are looking for employees, they basically match you up. They even go ahead to give you some money for you to go and learn the language more in case you haven't yet perfected your language. In case, of course, some employment requires very high levels of German, you go on to improve your language so that you just simply increase your chances of being employable. I think that's something which really gets very little credit, but it's such a wonderful thing that almost everybody within Germany has a job, because the German government understands that the more people are employed, yes, the more they are beneficial to the society. Also, Germany wants to streamline in that almost everybody is within the formal sector, and that means more taxes for the government. That is more income for the government, even as you offer your services to the fellow people with whom you live in that community. Now, talking of employment, by the way, Germany boasts of one of the most strict employee protection policies in the whole of Europe, and I think, of course, way better than the USA. By that, I mean that it is not easy for you to just get fired from your job unless if there are really very huge reasons as to why you should be fired. This whole idea of having layovers, they're not very common in Germany. Like, I can just give you guys an example. Recently, Volkswagen, one of the biggest car companies in Germany, has been going through a hard time, and they wanted to lay off people, but this tax has been because as you lay off people, you have to make sure that you give them room for them to get other jobs. And so there is such a high rate of employment security once you have that job. There is this whole idea called the Kündigungsschutz, which also basically means the dismissal protection. So this is there to basically just make sure that you are protected and you're not unfairly terminated from your job. Plus, there is such a high functional social security program. Of course, that means your employer pays your social security funds and then they pay your health insurance. And these things, by the way, work because I know of countries whereby you pay all this money to these circles that keep on saving this money, but at the end of the day, getting the money is a hassle. It's a different story in German. Now, the third advantage is German citizenship. If you are somebody who is interested in being a citizen of Germany, this is now very possible. That road of getting free education and of course the high employment rate just makes it very possible as long as you're interested, especially now with the possibility of having dual citizenship. It could be something as simple as coming here for an Ausbildung and down the road you are a German citizen. Now, one of the things that come as advantages of being a German citizen is that you are entitled, of course, to carry that German passport, and that German passport makes you automatically a citizen of the EU. It's also the fifth heaviest passport in the whole world, stronger than even the passport of the USA, and that entitles you to travel to 189 countries visa free or visa on entry. Such a strong passport, it comes with a lot of advantages, and one of the reasons why I think this could also be a good idea is that once you are a German citizen, if you are interested in real estate, it is very easier to buy property. The fourth thing is the low cost of living. So on top of that, compared to countries like the UK, Australia, the USA, and all these other countries that people like traveling to, there are really low costs of living in Germany. Life is very affordable to the extent that even if you are a person who is simply a student with the little money that people make from many jobs, it is very possible to survive and have a decent life here. This of course varies from city to city in that there are some cities which really have a high cost of living. For example, cities like Munich or the so-called Munich, they have quite a high cost of living. Cities like Hamburg and Berlin, some of those big cities have a very high cost of living, but by and large, there's such a low cost of living on a large scale comparatively speaking. Just take note, by the way, that Germany is the third largest economy in the whole world, just behind the USA and China. Remember, it's a home to one of the biggest companies in the whole world, including Mercedes, Volkswagen, Audi, Adidas, BMW, and so studying here really makes it possible that you could be an intern at one of these places and even a possible employee. So it is basically a land of possibilities. So moving in Germany can be such a huge advantage in the long run for somebody who really wants to settle here and even become a citizen like I've mentioned above. But for someone who is even looking further and has the prospects or even moving to countries like the USA, it can be like a launch pad to other places, like through the exchange programs like I've mentioned above, or even simply other possibilities, because you know these are big powers and big countries having exchanges. And of course, if somebody doesn't want to move to the USA and doesn't want necessarily to stay here, German, I think, will present you with all these possibilities and equip you for you to simply even go back home to your country and better your community with whatever you've gained from being part of this country. If you found this video beneficial, please check out this video where I talk about the 5 things that you might want to know before you move in Germany. Now, the thumbs up to the video really make a big difference. They push the video higher and further. And please subscribe to the channel if you've not yet subscribed. And until the next one, bye and peace.